Hello and welcome to Doc to Me. My name is Heather.
And I'm Kathleen.
And this week we are exploring the investigative discovery series, Fear Thy Roommate. Specifically episode 4, Down the Rabbit Hole, because the way they portrayed this crime is really something else.
Real mad at the title, too.
Also, if anybody from the ID channel is listening, when the fuck are we going to get a season 2? Because it's been 2 years.
Yeah, did you just move on? You're like, okay, we got Fear Thy Roommate, Fear Thy Neighbor. Give us more. Give us more. Also Deadly Women.
Before we get into anything else, I remember to do it on this one. You can follow us on Twitter and or join our Facebook group. Info for that can be found in the show notes. If you would like to email us comments or suggestions or donate to us at PayPal, our email address is doctomepod@gmail.com. We appreciate any help, whether it's a way we can make this podcast better or just $1.
And we'll send you a sticker.
Yes, we will. I still have some. Sorry, I haven't really gone over that in weeks because of a little thing called being in my cups while researching. That means being drunk. It's a fancy way. Mama's been drinking. This research is boring.
It's that's a new way of discussing it.
It sounds classy. I was in my cups.
Just call it mommy drink. Oh, you can't have that, sweetie. It's for mommies only.
Probably doesn't need to be said, but Fear Thy Roommate is a spin-off of Fear Thy Neighbor. Doesn't matter which show you watch, because these and the one last week, you should fear ever socializing with anyone ever again, because Jesus Christ, people are terrifying and can snap over any small slight.
I mean, I feel like there are so many episodes of these two shows that I want to cover with you, because what the fuck? So I'm sitting here God, my neighbor's dog is driving me fucking apeshit because it barks all the time. But, that's nothing in comparison to some of these people.
Who are tortured and tormented.
Yeah, at least they're not shooting at me.
But the episode we're going to cover today, I can see why the dude ended up dead. I'm not saying anyone deserves to die. It's just...
I'm going to say some people do deserve to die.
I can see why the perpetrator snapped. Speaking of which, you also watched a Deadly Women?
Deadly Women, yes.
Episode on this?
I did. Because I felt so bad because you texted me and you were like, I really want to do this episode, but don't look into the backstory. And I watched the first couple minutes and I was like, so I've seen this one.
I'm assuming they had
Deadly
a different
Women.
take?
And that's what I said, yes. I was like, and the take in the Deadly Women was so vastly different that it was two different stories, basically.
We'll go over how the series presents it and then go over the facts that they just... I don't know if they ignored them or just straight up lied. I'm not sure.
Well, they always want to have
And there is a disclaimer at the beginning that mentions some things have been changed for drama, but they really played fast and loose with facts.
I think it had a lot to do with who they were interviewing, because if you noticed, a lot of those people seemed to think this man was a saint.
Yes. I just want to say, I do enjoy this show. All the other episodes are great, so I don't know why they even bothered with this one.
Yeah, it was just, the Deadly Women episode was more than enough. And there were so many really good Fear Thy Roommates. So many good ones.
Especially the first one. You don't know who's going to end up dead. That one is so insane.
I feel we need to just have a super long episode and we just need to cover every episode because it is insane.
It's a good show.
That one I was just talking about. We've got to talk about that one because it's freaking phenomenal.
Which one?
The one with the torture and stuff.
Yeah.
There's the one about the CDs. It's just
the one where he came home and got mad because everybody ate dinner without him.
Yes. And it was some kind of weird crush going on. Yeah, dude,
that
no,
one.
we
I think that's the last one.
It is. We have to talk about all of them. We're going to talk about all of them. But for now, we're going to talk about this one.
Just skip this episode. First off, the two actors chosen for these roles look nothing like the real people.
Well, it's like that meme I sent you where it's what the people say about them. The actors versus the actual people on the show.
Let's just get a middle-aged dude and a chick with dark hair. It's perfect.
Yeah, they're whatever.
So we start off in Lawrence, Kansas, and the first talking head, total jackass, and spoiler, also her defense attorney.
Yeah.
He was like the worst. Quote, if you're an adult and you want to live with another adult, act like an adult. Just remember that when we go over the facts. Harold Sasko is described as being very caring, very giving, and thoughtful. And then his sister basically describes him as a control freak, but she's nice about it and just says, like, he's a clean freak and very orderly.
He likes things done his way.
And says he had a gorgeous 5-bedroom house, which... Did you see a picture of this gorgeous house? It's a boring-ass house. Let me see if I have it. Oh, yeah.
And it's in, what, Kansas? Like, I
yeah,
mean...
you want to come over here and see it?
Like, what's the market value of a house in Kansas?
Like, it's a very basic-ass house.
It looks like a Mormon house.
It looks like a house in Kansas. Sorry, I don't think we have any listeners in Kansas.
I don't think so. Maybe the only state we don't have.
Oh, no. And we had one in Alaska or Hawaii, one of those, and I was like, whoa.
We're spreading.
Welcome. And he has this big house because his dream is to take in foster children one day.
Which is like, I don't know.
We'll get to it later, but that's... Later on, you'll learn that's a creepy-ass thing to say.
Yeah, like, that's why I hesitate here.
And he is the owner of 3 really popular pizza restaurants in the area. Don't say what they are yet. Did you find out what they were?
You told me not to do any research, so I didn't beyond the Deadly Women.
Mind. They make it sound like these 3 hometown pizza restaurants.
Are they Mr. Jim's?
No. Not far off.
Little Caesars? Pizza Hut?
Nope, now you're too far. Too far. Too classy. You went classy with it. Sarah Gonzalez McLinn, the other person in the story, is basically the opposite. She had a really tough life. She's 19 at this point, and I don't remember them mentioning that he's 52.
Right, she's a child.
She's been working there for a few months, and by all accounts was an excellent worker. So her parents are going through a divorce, which was obviously affecting her home life situation, and she was looking to move out. I guess she got along well with her dad, but her dad left. And she did not get along well with her mom, and so she just...
Which a lot of girls don't.
Yeah.
Really looking forward to that
I'm in my 30s,
in the future.
and I still... Sarah can't afford to get an apartment because, again, working at a pizza place, I'm sure it was minimum wage. So Harold offers her...
It was just tips.
Harold offers her a room at his home for a couple $100 a month. I can't imagine agreeing to live with my manager.
No, fuck no. I don't even want to be like Facebook friends with you.
Any coworker, let alone a manager. Harold's girlfriend, Kimberly Qualls, who had been dating him for 6 months at this stage, remembers it being really important to him that she meet Sarah so she could see that nothing's going on. Like, I wouldn't suspect that. Why would you bring that up?
She could be your daughter. What are you talking about?
He's just trying to help this girl out. And also, Harold could use the extra cash, which seems really strange, again, when I tell you later the name of the restaurant.
And he owned 3 of them.
3 of them. It almost feels like it was an excuse to make his girlfriend feel better about the situation. I'm just trying to help this poor girl out, and also I need money, so I have to do this.
It could be anyone, but I need to help her.
Yes. And Harold enjoys her being there because he feels like a mentor to her, and they demonstrate this by showing that she doesn't know how to whisk eggs. Seems absurd.
I would just like to point out that
she's like stabbing the eggs with the whisk. And I was like,
my 9-year-old could do this.
Exactly. And 8 days later, they're already arguing because she's messy and takes too long in the bathroom. You know, like a teenage girl.
It's a 5-bedroom house.
Thank
How many
you.
bathrooms do they have?
That was my next sentence. Also, a 5-bedroom house and there's only 1 bathroom. I will never live somewhere with only 1 bathroom. I made that mistake once when I was living with another person and we both came down with food poisoning. Never again. So, of course, Sarah is finding it hard trying to keep up with her expenses. So instead of Harold being a real mentor, sitting down with her to go over her finances or even suggesting she possibly look for a new or second job, he just gets her a credit card.
Which is very responsible. He didn't explain how it works. He just gives her a credit card.
Even better, he gets a credit card in her name with him as the co-signer, because getting a credit card will certainly teach this teenager how to be responsible and take care of her finances.
When she's making minimum wage.
So
totally,
insane.
totally helpful.
Another thing about teenagers, they have very low self-esteem, and this also applied to Sarah. Instead of telling her she's beautiful or, everyone has things they don't like about the way they look, he offers to pay for her to get a nose job.
Which, what the fuck? Like, that is not a thing you do
Mentoring!
to help a teenager.
And then it shoots forward 5 weeks where Harold is suddenly pissy with her because she can't afford rent to give him. I understand if you want to help somebody, but if you can't afford to do that, then don't fucking do that.
But also, you just paid for a nose job for her. Do you really need her, like, $100 for rent?
And really, if you really wanted to help her, you could have told her, hey, you could stay here free for a few months so you could save up for the down payment on an apartment. Also, let's do your finances so you can see what you'll need and how to better handle your money.
Yeah, let's set out a budget because you're 19 and that's probably something you've never learned.
You definitely don't give her a credit card.
Or a nose job.
Holy fuck. And about that credit card, Harold technically paid for her nose job with her fucking credit card.
What?
You didn't know that part?
I didn't know that part.
I think they just barely mention it in this.
Just,
It's
like,
like
gloss
a one little
over it.
sentence thing. Yeah.
What the fuck?
And she
That's
needs
not getting
to
her a nose job.
No. That's you like maybe taking her there. And she needs to make these credit card payments because he's the co-signer and she better not fuck up his credit.
Then don't co-sign for something that you can't afford to pay.
And then don't tell the person to get something so expensive with the credit card that you're co-signed on.
Like, what 19-year-old's affording a nose job? On a pizza salary.
It shoots forward another 6 weeks, and now Harold is being absolutely petty by leaving notes around the house for her to find that were basically receipts of all the money she owed him. And
It was like a ledger.
it's like itemized stuff like, oh, you owe me toilet paper you used. You used 2 eggs, you owe me money for that. And let's not even talk about the toothpaste. Like, how much toothpaste are you going through?
Like, I'm pretty sure the ADA says that you should only use like a pea-size amount on your toothbrush, so.
Well, and toothpaste is like $1.
I mean, to be fair, now egg prices are outrageous.
That's true. But
So 2 eggs every
like
day.
9 years ago.
2 as he says, 2 eggs every day.
For 6 days? Well, what did she do that 7th day?
That day she probably just had
Toast?
bread prices.
They keep harping on how bad Harold was doing financially and how Sarah not paying her rent was really affecting him. But like,
It was like $100.
obviously you're not doing something right if you have 3 pizza places doing that bad and you're depending on this measly $300 a month to keep you afloat. And his whole thing is, I can't kick her out because I'll never get my money. So you'll continue to let her live there to keep racking up this money she owes you
Not
instead
to
of just
mention, it's a
kicking her out?
5-bedroom house. Kick her out and get 4 roommates that actually pay rent.
or just downsize. Even Kimberly discussed how Harold was stressed and frazzled about the debt he was in from the money Sarah owed him. It's ridiculous how much they want to blame Sarah for everything in
He
this.
is such a nice guy, and he was just trying to help her, and she was taking advantage. He's not a creepy 51-year-old guy
52.
preying... Oh, sorry, 52-year-old guy preying on a 19-year-old girl who literally had just been living with her parents.
His restaurants are failing because she owes him some money. Oh, and then when payday came up for Sarah, he was keeping her paychecks to cover her bills. Hello, Labor Department? Oh, this guy's a piece of shit and this is a clear sign of financial abuse? Yes, I'll hold.
You can't just like garnish wages completely from
That's
someone
not even,
without
yeah,
going
that's
through
not
the government.
garnishing. That's just stealing. So she quits.
That's called being a slave. Like, she was literally being a slave for this
Yes.
man.
She comes home later and he just rips into her again about the money she owes him and how it's even worse because now she doesn't have a job. She says she'll just move out then, and so he brings up taking her to court. So essentially she's stuck. And then we go to girlfriend Kimberly, who says, quote, when there's enough stress and there's anger, sometimes things are said, and I'm sure that might have been a way to try and get Sarah's attention. Right, but she's 19 and he's 52.
Right. You should have a better grasp on your emotions and your anger.
Yeah, you should know if you yell at a 19-year-old, that's not going to do anything. But he does take the time to remind her that she owes him $14,000. Why the fuck would he even let it get that high? If you ask to borrow,
We all know.
if you ask to borrow $100 on the promise you pay it back, and I don't get that money back after like a month or two, I'm not going to lend you more money. I'm just going to chalk it up as a loss and a lesson learned.
Yeah.
Like, that's...
$14,000. That's a fucking car.
What year is it? I don't think you know the price of cars. How much could a banana cost?
$20?
And just to put you in Sarah's headspace, she texted her sister that she felt like a caged animal. That's so dark. And she has nowhere to run to because her sister had a full house with a baby. It cuts to 9 days later and shows him like standing outside her door and then him just coming into her room without knocking while she's trying to get dressed. I almost want to thank them for finally showing him being creepy. And now Harold is so stressed out, he broke up with Kimberly. And Harold deals with it by drinking. And he apologizes to Sarah, asks for forgiveness, and then tries to kiss her. When she rightfully turns him down, he then reminds her of the money she owes him.
Which, like...
It's so gross.
Well, I mean, doesn't he say that she's not going to get everything for free or something like that? Like, she owes him. Which, I mean, as a 19-year-old girl, I'm sure you know what that means.
Yes. Kimberly had even previously mentioned that it was a father-daughter relationship. If that's a father-daughter relationship, you're looking at the wrong websites.
My dad barely hugs me, so...
I only got 3 hugs from my dad, and one of them was like a week before he died. He knew he was dying. And then the other 2 were when I had the boys.
I may have gotten a pat on the back. Good job, champ.
Yeah. An elbow shrug.
Yeah. Head nod.
Just an acknowledgement. That's all we really need.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good day. At this point, she's just gone mentally. She starts to look up online how to kill, which I don't think you need to look up how to do that.
It's pretty self-explanatory. Yeah. Like, there's so many different methods. I mean, all of them are pretty easy to figure out.
The next day, she comes home with a brand new rabbit from the pet store, and no, it's nothing like, oh, our relationship is falling apart. Let's fix it by getting a dog or having a baby. She kills it and cooks it. And I completely forgot about that part. I don't know how, because it's kind of big. And I felt so bad when you reminded me after you watched this, because you have a pet rabbit.
Which I love dearly. And I remembered it from the Deadly Women episode because I was so pissed watching that. I was like, what
I am so sorry.
And then I remembered as I was watching it, I was like, oh yeah, she's going to do that whole rabbit thing. I was like, I better close my eyes.
And in defense of Sarah, she has survival skills, so this rabbit went quick.
Yeah, I mean, it just, and people do eat rabbit.
And also, how is raising animals and then slaughtering them worse than picking it up from a pet store and slaughtering it right away? I feel like that's better. You're not raising it up.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like most animals that come from pet stores tend to come from like that puppy mill type situation.
Better than being thrown down the stairs by a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
And then they show it like it's a
Which, by the way, my child's never done.
No. I was thinking like, was it Indian in the Cupboard where the hamster was in the ball and the brother like kicks it down the stairs?
My rabbit is very well cared for and spoiled immensely. He has his own furniture in my house.
I got him a costume for Christmas for you.
Yes, he literally has his own office chair to sit beside me, so he's definitely not being abused.
He's very well loved.
And I would never skin him and cook him.
And they show her slaughtering him, and it's like a complete bloodbath when, like, she's over a sink. Like, it couldn't have been that bad.
Yeah, like, plus, like, I mean, it's a rabbit. How much blood could it possibly have? Like, have you seen a rabbit? They're not, like, massive.
She was homeschooled, and nothing against that, but I feel like that doesn't set you up very well for socialization.
I was also homeschooled, and I can attest that it doesn't set you up well for socialization.
Or how to deal verbally with issues you may have with another person.
No, you grow up very sheltered.
And instead of calling the authorities, Harold decided to handle the problem himself. And then it goes to a journalist chick who said, I'm sure Harold had a soft spot for Sarah, so I don't think he wanted to just kick her to the curb.
She owes him $14,000. Also, she just as far as I'm concerned, she just made him dinner.
And then later that day, he texts her, "I'm sorry for making moves on you. Let's talk about this." Yeah, I'm sure you're sorry now after you saw her butcher an animal in front of you. And this leads us to a few hours later on that same day, January 14, 2014. There's a date, so you know something happens. He comes home from work and she serves him rabbit for dinner and hands him a beer. And apparently she just threw the rabbit into the oven with carrots that still had stems on and didn't bother trying to skin it.
So they said she skinned it in the Deadly Women episode, but like...
I'm just showing how they portrayed it.
It looked like, it was literally just... I don't think that's how you prepare rabbit. Like, I've never had rabbit because I'm a big softie and like the most...
No, you skin it, but it looked like she just threw it into a pan with carrots that she didn't even bother cutting the stems off of.
It looked really crispy and like just not how you would serve a rabbit.
He struggles away from the table but passes out in the hallway, and then we shoot forward 3 days. Harold hasn't shown up to work and nobody has been able to get in contact with Sarah, so her father calls the police to check on the house. Harold's car is missing, and when police first look into a window, they spot Sarah's phone on a table, and then they notice a body on the floor inside. Harold's hands and feet are bound and his throat is slit. On a wall near the body, the word freedom is written in his blood.
I was a little annoyed that they didn't give them enough space to the end. Like, it was just like really scrunched at the end.
But also, she didn't write out the letters in blood. She had blood on the wall and then wrote it like in the blood.
Which makes
kind of
sense.
like when you get in a car window and
yeah, in the fog. You write in the fog. Yeah.
Couldn't even get that right. So now it's on to find Sarah because she's either the perpetrator or she's another victim. 11 days later in Everglades National Park in Florida, they spot Harold's car and a sleeping Sarah inside of it because she's a dumb teenager and doesn't know that parks close at sunset. Also, that's a hell of a drive.
She's a
from
teenager.
Kansas to Florida. And then you'll learn, like, I don't think I mentioned it in the fact stuff, but she drove to, I think, like, not the Mexican Bay, the Gulf of Mexico, Jesus Christ, and then drove to Florida. Like, that's such a long-ass drive.
She probably wasn't thinking. She's just driving to
She
clear
went
her
down,
head.
she wanted to see the ocean, and then just followed it to Florida.
It makes sense.
So she's charged with first-degree murder. Her lawyer goes with an insanity defense, which is really dumb, because that barely works. And she would be found guilty of premeditated first-degree, premeditated murder. That is what they said. That's a lot of premeditated.
It's real redundant.
It was given 50 years with no parole. So Sarah tries to appeal the conviction and it is turned down, but in May 2021, her minimum sentence is reduced by 25 years, which still isn't great because that means she could still serve the full 50 years if they don't want to release her on parole.
Exactly.
It's so dumb.
Did nothing for her.
That's like somebody being charged with like possession of heroin and weed, and they're like, we'll drop the weed charge. Like, that doesn't help. So now let's get into the actual story. We're gonna get mad. First, he didn't meet her when she was 19. He met her when she was 14 and started working at one of the pizza places he owned. We haven't mentioned yet, those little quaint pizza places he owned were fucking Cece's.
Oh, Cece's. I should have known. Fucking
How do you
Cece's.
fuck up running not one, not two, but 3 of those?
Fucking
It's
Cece's.
all you can eat fucking pizza. Do you like pizza?
I love pizza.
Of course you. Everybody fucking loves pizza. That's why there's hundreds of Cece's across this great land. And you can't sit there and tell me you wouldn't go up there just to get a slice of that cinnamon apple dessert pizza pie. It's so good. Plus they have an arcade room.
Don't they have mac and cheese pizza now?
Yes, and it's disgusting. Fucking love that Simpsons cabinet our Cece's had.
Oh, yes.
Anyway, she started working there when she was 14. When she was 16, that was the first time he asked her to come live with him.
Blech.
She thought that was weird, rightfully so. So she waited another year until she was 17 to agree to it. So he would have been like 49 asking a 16-year-old to come live with him.
That's like your dad.
And also, it's her manager.
So gross.
And this show gives you the impression that all of this happened like over a few months, but that's clearly not the case if she killed him at 19.
Nope.
The nose job that she got? Yeah, no, she also got butt implants too after he told her no man would find her attractive because her butt and boobs were too small and he wanted her to be his curvy Barbie doll. What's that about boobs? Yeah, he tried to get her boobs done too, but the doctor wouldn't agree to it because she was too young.
Right, she didn't finish fucking developing.
But with the nose job and butt implants, that $14,000 she owed him, like, makes more sense. That's at least half that money. And the super serious girlfriend he had, they were only together for 8 months.
Which is not the, 2 years of her living there.
Yeah, she made it seem like, oh, it was such a super serious relationship. Something I think is telling is 2 months after Sarah moved in is when he broke things off with Kimberly.
I mean, you can't have your girlfriend know that you're keeping your
really
little sex slave.
Weirds me out. It's like he got what he wanted with this young girl in his house, so now he doesn't need Kimberly around anymore, or maybe he doesn't want anyone coming around the house because of what eventually happens. So in this show, they just show Harold attempting to kiss Sarah and her shutting that shit down. Again, not what happened.
Nope.
She owed him all this money, and he began to threaten her by kicking her out and taking her to court unless she had sex with him.
As some men do.
Sex abuse. So we have financial abuse. We got sex abuse now. So he would just get her high and drunk and basically rape her. And I know what you're thinking, why didn't she just go back home? He told her that her parents would be upset and embarrassed because of all the money she owed him and that they wouldn't want her.
Which is like brainwashing.
So yeah, I get why she said she felt like a caged animal. It's just so much abuse and she's so young. She's already been a victim to sexual violence and finally finds a guy she thinks she can trust, and he does this shit to her. It's awful.
And he's like a dad. Seriously.
Yeah, isn't it so creepy when you think about when he said he wanted a big house because he wanted a lot of kids? Why did they make this episode? And again, he's been grooming this girl since she was 14.
It's absolutely disgusting.
And he's treated like such an upstanding Christian who owns his own businesses, who wants to do nothing but help out down and out kids. Even the media did it. If you try to look up articles about this, you have to do some serious digging.
Oh yeah, the Deadly Women is really the only one that's just
I even saw one article that referred to her as his girlfriend.
That's against the law.
And yet everyone around him was like, shit was kind of weird. There were several people he told that Sarah was his stepdaughter, which is so gross after everything we've learned. If you were just a stand-up guy just trying to help a down-and-out young lady, why would you feel the need to lie and say it was your stepdaughter?
Why would you get this down-and-out teenager a nose job or butt implants?
Or try to get her a boob job.
It doesn't make any sense for any of these things. Those aren't what you do to mentor. I wouldn't encourage my 12-year-old daughter.
No. His own girlfriend, Kimberly, mentioned in an article, and I'll post links to all the articles I used in the show notes, but she said she wasn't oblivious to the fact that all the other kids Harold had helped, including her own 19-year-old son, none of them had been invited to move in with him. And she never suspected that anything wrong had been going on in the house between Sarah and Harold, but again, they had broken up just 2 months into Sarah living there. I don't understand her defense of him. You were only together for 8 months. That's not even a full-term pregnancy.
No.
I don't understand just how attached she is.
You haven't even figured out all the annoying shit he does.
Yeah.
Like, keep sex slave teenagers.
There were even statements from Terry David, who managed one of Harold's restaurants, who claimed that Harold told him to only hire young, attractive girls. And when Terry warned female employees to watch out for Harold, Harold was pissed. Why would you be pissed if you weren't doing anything wrong?
You know.
And later, when Terry heard Harold had been killed, his first thought was, quote, "The first thing I said to my wife was, I wonder which one of those girls' dads went over there and killed him." So, people knew.
That he was a predator.
And then there's another weird story from Ann Tao. She had teenagers who worked for Harold at Cece's, and so since they were underage and could only work so many hours, she would sit in the parking lot and wait for them. During this time, she sort of became a confidant for Harold, and he would get into her car and just rant about his life and problems. One of these conversations, a year before his death, Anne said, quote, "He wanted to die. He was Catholic, so he didn't believe in suicide, but he asked me if I would kill him. He told me how to kill him, and I'm convinced he told Sarah the same thing. He was a very sick person. I'm an adult woman with 5 children, high functioning, and he weighed me down. Fuck.
Which, again...
And she was not allowed to testify.
He's 52. This girl's 19. She's so impressionable.
They also portrayed her after she quit Cece's of just kind of like moping around the house. That also was not true. She had a job at Bed Bath & Beyond at the time of the killing. Not as big as a deal as they made it out to seem, but just another example of something that they just completely left out to make her seem worse.
She quit the pizza place to get away from him and actually bring home paychecks.
Yeah, they made it seem like, well, you quit your job and now you're just not going to pay anything. No, she went out and got another job.
Crazy.
We get to the night when she kills him. In this, they portrayed it as she just drugged only 1 beer. Again, not true. She put the crushed up Ambien in his 4th beer, which tells me he drank often enough that she knew there would be a 4th beer in the middle of the week.
I mean, I don't know how most people operate when they're 52 or whatever, but I'm 35 and like that's a lot of drinking for me on a weekday.
Like if she put in the 4th beer, like she had 3 other chances to do it, but she knew that would be too soon. He's gonna keep drinking. So yeah, she was obviously abused and none of that came up in her trial. It's so ridiculous. Instead of self-defense, which this clearly was, her lawyer went for not guilty by reason of her diagnosis of dissociative disorder, which is multiple personality disorder is what we used to call it. Such a bad defense.
No, it's terrible. Nobody ever gets off with that.
She was even offered a plea deal of 25 years, and this lawyer seriously thought that this defense would work better.
Yeah, so he told her not to take the deal.
There was an article from 2021 about the jury foreman on her trial, who, by the way, was only 18. Why are 18-year-olds being jury foremans on murder trials? That shouldn't be allowed. There should be, like, an age limit on being a foreman.
It's wild to me that 18-year-olds
who are children... He basically said they asked who wanted to do it and nobody else did it, so he just raised his hand.
These are children. I look back, like, I'm 35, and I look at anyone under the age of 25, and I'm like, you're such a baby. Like, you have no idea what the world is like.
He mentioned that rape wasn't even talked about during the trial. Quote, looking back now, it's very obvious, definitely. Back then, I just felt something was off. In regards to a 17-year-old with a history of abuse and rape moving in with a 15-year-old, quote, the word freedom makes a lot more sense, but it seems like everything worth talking about wasn't discussed. And later on he said in regards to attorney, I'm no lawyer. I had maybe 2 months of college, but maybe he should have explained the why or the circumstances or something like that.
Just anything.
So it's no fucking wonder a judge saw her case and said, yeah, knock some of those years off her sentence. The jury foreman also said, quote, if it was presented as self-defense, I could see a not guilty. That makes a lot of sense. I couldn't tell you if it would have changed the verdict then, but in today's age, I'm sure it would. I don't know what he means by today's age. It had only been like 6 years since the trial.
A lot's changed, Heather.
I guess the Me Too movement and all that had come out.
6 years is like a lifetime for women's rights.
Also, why is an 18-year-old on a jury for murder? That's insane.
He's what, 24 now? Still a baby.
Well, this happened like 9 years ago, so...
Oh, yeah.
Still younger than us. He also insisted that he had no idea that the 50-year sentence would be a full 50 years. They wanted her to at least be able to get mental health treatment, which, of course, you're not guaranteed in prison.
No, of course not.
He even admitted that he voted guilty because at that time, all he thought was, if you did the crime, you did the time. And he's, quote, grown humanity since then. So even the jury foreman was like, yeah, we fucked up.
Yeah.
Her lawyer also fucked up, but...
He's not going to admit that.
And look, yes, she did kill someone and deserves to be punished for it, but 50 years in prison...
When she was just like an impressionable 19-year-old girl who was being abused and taken advantage of. Like,
it's not fair. I think it's her writing freedom in the blood that just like really stood out to me. Then she was finally like, okay.
Right, she's
like,
done.
She's not going to go out and just kill anybody. I mean, she was with this guy for like a year and a half or something and finally snapped. Anyway, this is a great example of why you can't just trust true crime shows at face value. And this one just didn't feel right, and that's why I even bothered to look into it. So who knows how many other shows or cases are just thrown out there with whatever facts.
Yeah, I would definitely say to see this one from both perspectives, like the Deadly Women and this episode if you're going to watch it. But
I think there's
feel
also a Snapped, maybe.
Probably. Snapped covers everything.
I don't know who the writer was for this show, but shame on them. It feels like they were like related to Harold in some way.
Well, and everyone they interviewed was related to him. He was such a nice guy. And all they had was like always wanted to help.
Her shitty lawyer.
Yeah. Fuck all of them.
So I would go enjoy all the other episodes of the show and don't move in with your boss. I think we can agree on that.
Basically, don't get a roommate ever. Like, ever.
And I will leave links for the articles I used in the show notes if you're interested. And thank you so much for listening.
Bye.
We'll be back next week. Goodbye.
Ta-ta.
Thank you for listening to Doc to Me. The opening music is by Twisterium. For comments or suggestions, we can be reached by email at doctomepod@gmail.com. Find us on Twitter at doctomepod and find a link to our Facebook group in the show notes. Thank you.